Hello everybody and welcome back. I haven't been in here for a while to do a video. I've mostly been outside in my last couple of videos, but now I'm in here and you haven't really seen this part of the indoor oasis for a while because my other ones were the kiwi fruit growing videos, which weren't in this area. I was in on a different table, so it would have seemed unfamiliar to you, but we're back in here now, and today I thought I'd just do a little tour. Now, I did intend to make a video about a week ago, except we have been having some internet problems lately, and I wouldn't have been able to upload, so I didn't. But now our internet's okay. This video should hopefully end up going up. Fingers crossed. Well, if you're watching it now, then I probably had to practically do backflips to get it to upload, but yeah, hopefully I can get this to go up. But I'm going to start on this right side today, and things have changed a lot since you've been in here, so I thought it was pretty important that I should show you around. Starting off just here is a small orchid I took from a larger hanging basket of these orchids. I do know what this orchid's called. I cannot remember. I am trying to, because I'm sort of getting into orchids a little bit, and I am trying to memorize orchid names and things. But this one seems to have made me look like Dory on YouTube. Up here is a recovering orchid. This is a Cymbidium orchid. Underneath all that sphagnum moss you can see a little bit of green. This was one that I accidentally broke off from a larger orchid, which I'm trying to get to grow. Trying to keep this one pretty moist. Again, it's hanging just from this chain right beside the window, and this one's hanging off of a spring from our trampoline, which our trampoline, me and my sister have nearly fallen through it a couple of times now, so I'm probably going to use all the springs for this purpose, because I actually quite like the look of it as well, the rust and everything. I think it's sort of a bit quirky and a little bit rustic. Here on this rack, which has been along the way with us for basically as long as the indoor oasis has been around, I've still got this thing. On here I have what they call a pregnant onion. I do have the actual name of it somewhere, but I can't quite recall it right now. But we did have these growing outside, but when we got to this time of year, which is winter, the frost would make them look absolutely awful and they'd turn all slimy. So I thought I'd grow them in here where the frost doesn't affect them. This is just a wee little baby one I'm trying to get to grow. And then beside it I have a rose cutting. I'm pretty sure, I need to learn to label things, but I believe it's a peace rose, which I'm growing for Mum because we've already got one, and the peace rose is her favourite rose, so, and I like the look of them as well, so I thought I'd get one going from cutting. This little plant down here is, can't really make up its mind whether it wants to live or die. It is a spider plant, which when I was on school camp, I found one growing out in the bush where they're not supposed to be growing, they're not native, and they can be quite invasive out there, so I took a cutting, and I'm going to grow one in here, but it was very undeveloped, so I don't know whether it'll live or die. We'll find out. Sorry, Mum came down looking for me, so I had to cut off the video there, but I just noticed something that I'll quickly show you. With this orchid here, I just noticed it's got a fair bit of new root growth, which is really promising. Coming out the holes I drilled on the side of the pots, if it will focus. One just there with a water drop on it. That's good, and then one there, and its roots were nowhere near this big. You look at the distance the root is from the actual plant itself, so that's good. Hopefully this will start filling out and they'll start growing down a bit more. Anyway, up here is a pineapple which I'm trying to grow from the top of a pineapple which I bought from the supermarket. I have grown one before, but something happened while we were away on holiday, and my pineapple and the other bromeliad I own both died the same way, So I'm going to attempt it again, this time in a terracotta pot, so it has a little more root aeration, and I'm using a different soil medium. I'm using one similar to what you would use for a regular bromeliad, which is a mix of, I'm just using pine bark mulch and also sphagnum moss, and we'll see how that goes. Here is what I believe to be a type of agave, which I'm trying to grow in here, but they do like a fair bit of light, so I'm not sure how it's going to go. This is only a tiny little pup that was growing off of a larger one, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. In here with the jar over it is the last surviving kiwi fruit, which in there it looks dead, but that's just because of the time of year. They are deciduous, so it's just dropped its tiny little baby leaves. It does have a new bud, and I've got the jar over it to keep the humidity up. The container in the background, I'm just attempting to grow some moss in there, so we'll see how that goes. This here, which I'll bring a little closer for you, is a camellia, which I am attempting to grow from cutting, because I would like to have one growing in here, but I had one before that was very sickly and very close to death, and it did end up dying. So I thought I'd try grow a fresh one from cutting, and I've popped this over it for a bit of humidity, and just to protect it a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've just got a couple of little holes drilled in the top. I'll see if I can zoom into one of them and show you the camellia inside. Oh, you sort of saw it. Anyway, it's in there. Up here hanging is a type of succulent. I'm not sure what it is, but I've just got it in this hanging pot, which I spray painted white because it was an ugly faded terracotta colour. So anyway, I've got this growing in here. It's put out a new growth, which is really nice, and these grow really like wide out. And I believe they have a nice flower as well, so that'll be nice. One thing I'll point out is I did line the walls in here with this sort of foam-like material, because my parents own a pitch framing business and they get heaps of this when we order materials and stuff for framing. So I thought I'd line it in here just for a little bit of insulation, and just to keep any water out, because occasionally I do get the odd spot in here where water comes in. Down here I made a couple of quirky little terrariums with this thing that I'm not sure what it is, but I got it from somewhere, and then just a couple of little jars on the side, and I've just put moss in there, and that should spread and they'll look nice eventually. This one as well is just in a jar with a wooden topper. It's just got moss, sphagnum moss and just a carpet moss. And then this branch, which goes up to the top, wicks up the water, and the idea is that eventually the moss will grow up the branch, which will be nice. Down here is a violet, which I'm just growing from a couple of small little survivors from the older one I had. And behind there is a Zago cactus. Now, a lot of people get Zago cacti confused with Christmas cacti, but they are different. There is a way you can tell, but it's very difficult to tell, and I'm looking at this one a little bit confused now, and I'm trying to work out which one it is. I'm not 100% sure with that one now that I think about it, but I know I've got both, so it doesn't really matter. Down here is a couple of cuttings I've got from some begonias. That's the only one that looks like it's really taken so far. The rest look a little bit damaged by frost, because things do get damaged by frost in here, just nowhere near as bad as outside. They're much more protected and more likely to survive in here. Over here I've got an aloe vera, which has been through with us in the indoor oasis for quite some time now, and it's put out lots of pups, which is really good, and it's looking great. This strange seed thing came with a, trying to remember what it's called. Oh well, show you that. Anyway, I did have the larger plant, and it also came with this one at the bottom, but I believe they put a growth inhibitor on it, and I've had it in here for a couple of years now trying to grow it, and I've managed to keep it from rotting, and I think by this point the growth inhibitor's actually possibly worn off, because it is starting to put out a little green sort of bumpy bit there, which I think will turn into a growth. I do know it has got roots, so hopefully it'll take fairly well. Here in this large green pot, which is just for balance, is another one of those things, the succulents I showed you in the hanging basket. My indoor gnome collection. I've got some more outside. This is by far my favourite one, which my friend Eleanor got me for my birthday. Zombie gnome. And then if we look up right in front of me, I always hit my head on this, is the iron plant. It rarely ever grows, but it doesn't die and doesn't suffer, it just doesn't do much. But they're very hardy and they grow really, really easily, so... Just here is a Cymbidium orchid, which I'm trying to let dry out a little bit because that bulb was a little bit too damp, but I'm conducting a bit of an experiment at the moment with my Cymbidiums. I'm trying to grow them in terracotta pots, because I found when I had them in plastic pots, my issue was that the medium I had them in would break down really, really fast, and it wasn't too great for the orchids, and I would have some root rot. So the reason these aren't flowering now, because this time of year in Australia they are supposed to flower, is because I just repotted them all, so I don't believe they're going to flower. Here's another one just here. This one's doing really well. It's just put out some new growths rather than flowering, but they're very healthy looking. That one's doing, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Up here is another one, which I just had, Start again, sorry, might cut that out. Anyway, this one was sitting in water because it is in a plastic pot, so I did have to drain that out, but I don't think I have another terracotta pot around that I can put this in. And again, I did say the terracotta pots are an experiment, so that's the other variable. I'm going to compare the two and see which ones have the most root growth and do the best. This is the larger of the pregnant onions, and it is growing like ballistic. It's gone all the way down there. It did flower in the summertime this year, and it's going everywhere. It looks very alien-like. This is another experiment of mine. That is an apple tree branch. I'll explain that in another video if it works. And I've got it growing in an old steamer pot kit thing, which we don't use anymore because of the metal it's made out of. And then under there in that tub is sphagnum moss, which I'm growing. And I believe that's all I've got to show you in here now. Up here in this hanging basket where the really bright sun is, I've got some seeds I'm trying to grow sitting in there. They're coleus, I believe, and also some more either Christmas or Zago cacti. It's very bright in here now. I did try to avoid the bright sunlight, but I think I just got it. I avoided it pretty well though, I think. And yeah, that's all I've got to show you in here at the moment. I hope you enjoyed this video. Things are going well, especially considering it's winter time right now. Today is a beautiful day though, I must say. It's really nice outside. But yeah, so everything's been doing well. A couple of things got a bit damaged by the cold. We did have some snow the other day, which, not much, because we never get snow where we are. That's the first time in like 20 years probably that it snowed at our house. So yeah, it got pretty cold, but things held up well in here. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Hopefully my internet is fixed soon enough. We've had a few people come around and look at it. And yeah, see you on the next video, guys. Bye.